Sam?
Hi, my name is Sam. I attend Wensfield Seventh Adventist Church in Wolverhampton, and I'm a pharmacist.
All right, thank you. And is that Latikwa?
Hi everyone, Latikwa here. I attend the St. Newington Church in North London, SEC. Leicester Central also has a place in my heart, as I was there when I studied, and I am a care quality supervisor for a healthcare company.
Okay. And no, Nathan, haven't done you, have I?
Yeah, but my name is Nathan. I'm from Handsworth Seventh Adventist Church in Birmingham. I am a mental health nurse, and that's about it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you. We're talking about church leadership today. So maybe you should have done the last one, but just kind of continuing on from that. If you could just go around and just share, for the purpose of those listening, what church positions have you held in church? Not so much what you are now, or what, just basically what positions have you held, or what leadership or what support roles have you held, just so our listeners get an idea as to what breadth of experience or where you guys are coming from as we go into tonight. So Chisha, we'll just go in the same order.
Yeah, cool. So currently a youth leader, a trainee elder, and an area leader in the South. Previously just on various committees as well, assistants at times for various departments, and campus ministries for NEC previously. That's me.
Okay.
Wow, that's what you talk about experience. Wow, goodness. So I have held a youth leadership role, I think about 4 years. 4 years, I did 4 years. And I'm currently now a elder, as I've highlighted earlier. So I would have done that for 2 years, so 6 years in leadership. 6 years in leadership.
Okay.
I'm currently youth leader and have been for 7 years at Plymouth Church. I've also taken on the teens. We're a very small group, so we tend to do everything together anyway. I'm also area coordinator for those as well. Just taken on Pathfinder director for my club, and also I help to run the senior youth leadership training for the SEC at the moment. So,
wow,
yeah, we're growing that at the moment.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, you did a investiture a year or so ago. I saw remember seeing. Yeah, that looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool. Is it Sam? You next?
So different roles and things.
Go on, Sam. List them all.
Take your time. Take your time, Sam. Take your time, Sam.
different roles. Different roles. Student committee when I was back at uni for the conference. Elder, men's ministries, youth advisory. Worked for the conference formally as peace outreach coordinator. Different bits and pieces.
Okay, Latikwa.
It's hard to follow that. I was an elder for 2 years and also a praise team leader.
Okay, Nathan.
I was a deacon and an elder, and I've helped out with the youth advisory as well. That's it.
All right, cool. What age were you guys when you first sat on a church board? I'm not asking your age now. Just rewind back whenever it was. What was your age of a first church board experience? Roughly, you could say 23, 4, 16, 17, or...
People unsure, I'll start us off again. At age 23, I think, 22 or 23.
Okay, was that Leicester or Chelmsford?
That was Leicester.
Okay.
Leicester first, yeah.
Leon?
I think around about the same time, I think around about 23, 24, that would make sense, yeah.
Okay.
24, around that time. Yeah.
First board, okay. Anyone else?
I can't remember the year, but
about the same time?
Yeah.
Early 20s.
Yeah, I was 22.
Yeah.
Like just left uni.
Just left uni. Okay. Jenny, same?
Yeah, same, yeah. Till then, I managed to avoid the church board.
So you're all about 22, 3, somewhere around there when you had your first church board experience. How was your first church board experience? Was it like an entrance into like the most holy place of the church, and like everyone had a halo on their head, and it was just like prayer and fasting when you got there? Is that is that how it went? Anyone? I'm sure like Leon, maybe I know your Handworth ones are very righteous, so.
Dance, we got dance today, okay.
Real talk.
I mean, yeah, man. My general experience, Adam?
What was the first experience like in the
First
sense, like was it a shock? Was it like,
I mean,
was it intimidated, or did you just kind of fit in?
I mean, it was an experience, man. It was an experience because I think I entered, I was like, whoa, this is the board. Like these guys are like leadership, like they wouldn't say control everything, wouldn't say that, but they have important roles, should I say. And I sat down and I just, positioned myself, and I was ready for the role. I feel like I was a bit surprised. I didn't know what to expect, if I was being honest. First experiences, it was good. I think I had a good time.
Okay.
I had a good time, to be honest. I had a good time. I kept quiet for the first couple sessions, kind of trying to feel it out, trying to know when to jump in, when to keep quiet. You know how it goes, guys. Mm-hmm. But generally, I think I had a good initial experience. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Anything different or similar?
Would concur near enough word for word with Leon. Same thing, first time. I can't remember everything, but I just remember the first time being like, wow, this is the same thing. This is the board. I'm here. And then I remember it was quite friendly that first. Obviously, all the stories you hear about boards are generally not positive. So I was waiting for some anarchy, but it didn't come, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So maybe not everybody's gonna be like what everyone says. But yeah, and that was with Pastor Kimi, chaired a great board, Pastor. So yeah. But yeah, that's my first experience, quite positive. And like I think Leon said, just knowing when you should come in and just trying to feel your way in and everything else. But yeah, quite similar experience to Leon.
Wow. So yeah, my first experience was a bit, to be honest, because I had done nominating committee when I was really young in my teenage years, I kind of had an idea of what to expect. But my first meeting was extremely long. It was I can't even tell you how many hours I sat there on a Sunday afternoon thinking, wow, this really could have been emailed, this could have been messaged. It was really long, and I found like really pointless. There was a lot of irrelevant points being made. So I didn't have that first positive experience. It was very long, it was laborious, it was tiresome. But hey, yeah.
No, that's good feedback, I think. Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember my first board, but I do remember the feeling of like I've been entrusted with something here. Like you're sitting and you realize, hold on, Sam, you've been entrusted with something here. You need to come correct. Don't just come with your usual last minute self. come prepared with something. So I do remember having that feeling of you've been entrusted.
The weight.
For me, like Sam, I cannot remember my first board meeting. For some reason, I do remember my first elders meeting though, but we'll leave that alone. But what I liked about the board meeting was the fact that...
Why don't we go back? No,
we don't need to go back, man. That's in the past. Let's go forward. What I did like about board meetings is the fact that there's so many aspects of the church that I didn't know about if I wasn't there. So I didn't know the importance of finances. I didn't know about all of the different church plans. I didn't know how much roles and how much organizing and how much planning went into a church service. Like, you come on a church on Sabbath and everything looks nice and smooth, but there is so much that goes behind the scene. And for me, I see the board on reflection. I was like the epicenter of the church. Like, that's where everything kind of spurs off, your plannings and your funding and this, that, and other. So it just made me see how huge the church was, their role was. So yeah.
All right. What would you guys say to someone who's maybe coming onto a board for the first time, or they're on a church board? Like, what advice would you give us someone how to deal with how to successfully navigate a church board, or how do you get your ideas to have traction, or, what have you seen that didn't work, or what have you seen that does work? Just kind of advice for someone else on how to navigate the tape and the motions and all the things.
I would immediately aim for someone that you know and like. I know you meant to know and like everyone, but aim for someone and sit next to them so you can nudge them when you need help with terms and stuff, or like, what's this? We haven't actually done this. What's this about? So I definitely sit next to someone you know so you can bug them in the first one at least. help you navigate it then.
Sure.
And I think as well, I think that was really good. And I think taking what Leon was saying, your first couple of boards, you don't need to go in all guns blazing. You've got ideas, you want to change the world. Watch and learn. Watch and learn so you can see how things are done. You can absorb what's happening, and you can take things in. I think that you'll probably find that very useful.
I mean, I would say it's important not to change who you are. It's important to remain the person who you were before you entered this board. Because what can happen, I think, some people can change. Those miracles. Some people can change when it hits board, and the meeting, the discussions. I think it's important just to be yourself. And I think it's a good point you mentioned there, Sam, about don't be like over enthusiastic and try to change the world instantly. You gotta know when it's the right time to interject, and when it's the right time to voice your opinions and views. I always use the word wise. You have to be wise when you're on the board, because you're all leaders, which means that everyone has a level of intelligence and wit about them. It's about being wise and in positioning yourself in the right place at the right time to voice your opinions for the right reasons.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this one of our previous, again, I think it was on taking initiative, but yeah, tact. In addition to that word of wise, being wise, but just having tact, again, knowing when to speak up, same as what Sam and Leon have said. Something which maybe might be connected to another question actually as well, but is also just be on time. If I'm honest, the times when I've been late for a board meeting, I've gone, do you know what? Maybe I had this big idea that I wanted to share today. Chish, don't bother. Leave it alone. You started off you're starting off on the back foot. You've come in flustered, etc. So I would actually encourage, just be on time, so people can actually also see that you're taking the board seriously, your role seriously. And I know that sounds like pretty standard advice, but obviously it's not always the case. So yeah.
I'd say as well, learn how to build your case if you're making an idea. So it may come across bad, but sometimes you may need to look for little problems or issues with the church and think of some form of idea that can better it, if that makes sense as well. If your idea is evangelistic, and which it should be in its nature, and something to nurture the church, hopefully it should build traction. One thing that you do have to be aware of, though, when you get onto the church board is sometimes you can be fighting against culture and tradition as well, and you really have to take that on board. Not every idea you have has to go forward. Sometimes it might get shot down. Go back to the drawing board, think about what you can do again, and then present it again, kind of thing. If you see there's a need, go and fulfill that need as well. So that's what I'd say.
Just to jump on the back of that, I think as well, sometimes you've got an idea, but you haven't necessarily fully fleshed it out. So now you've come to the board, and the board's asking you questions, and you haven't thought, you haven't thought that through. And so now you've got to wait now till next board meeting, whenever that is, before you can. So sometimes it's good to just think through properly what the idea is, and sometimes speak to somebody beforehand. This is the idea we're thinking. Do you think there's anything? Speak to the elder on your committee or one of the other elders or whoever's, and just speak to someone. This is the idea that we're thinking. Is there anything that you think we need to think about? Because A, that helps you in your own thought processes. 2, if this person's already on the board, or if it's pastor or whoever, now you've already got somebody who knows about that idea, who's on the committee as well. So these are some of the things that can sometimes help.
And lastly, I would just say, this is really good advice, everyone, really, really good advice. I would say, there is a sense of courage that you will need, because there may be some times where you need to call out some wrong behavior or some unkind or unloving mannerisms. So be brave, be courageous. If you know that you may need to call out something, even though you're young, don't be intimidated by that. Call it out if it needs calling out, because sometimes that will change the whole dynamic of the meeting, and people will reflect and say, oh, actually, you're right. So yeah, be courageous.
So one more thing I want to add is that sometimes the traction is very slow, but it doesn't mean it can't happen. Now, sometimes you'll see certain things in your workplace or your educational system, and you probably waffle on the same topic and you go quite quickly, but with church, it can take time, sometimes months, sometimes years. But stick it out, persevere. If it's something that you believe God has put on your heart, do it, because it will happen at the right time. So don't look for instant success. Sometimes success takes time.
Can I squeeze one in?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I really want to illuminate what Chisha said about being on time. For some strange reason, I have a difficult time sometimes.
Yes, sir.
Don't judge me now, guys. Yeah. I have a difficult time with being punctual. And when you're young and you're not punctual and you're on the board, it doesn't sometimes, it's not a great combination, because already you're young, already maybe you're not ready for the board, already you're inexperienced, already you've got to try and present a new idea that nobody else has thought about, and it doesn't always help you if you're late. And I would say it's about being professional. Try best to be punctual, because it does mean a lot, and it does change the views of the older adults who are on the board as well. So yeah,
that's kind of on our next question or thing. And how have you dealt with, because all of you said you're around 22 years old when you're on the board, and I'm guessing that the average age of your boards was probably in the 40s, 50s, or 60s when you joined. So how did you handle, or what advice would you give for dealing with the challenges of people maybe not listening to you, or people not listening to you, and then working with people from a completely different generation to you? Like, I get questions twofold. Answer which way you want. Like, what advice, or how did you deal with it yourself? Or are you dealing with it?
Wow.
I think it.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead, Leon.
No, go for it, Jenny, man.
I was just thinking that you're never going to be in a situation where absolutely everyone agrees. And that's the really sad thing. Even if you have an amazing idea and you've got the pastors back in and you've got the elders back in, there's still going to be someone quite often on the board that is still against what you're saying. And I've struggled in some boards for going, right, I want to come to your church because I know I've heard like you've got youth there. There's 3 or 4 youth there. And they'll sit there blinds like and just go, we haven't got any youth. I'm like, you do. I've spoken to your pastor. There's 3 or 4 there. I want to come visit. No, we don't. And you're just like, what? Serious? So I think keep positive is a really important thing. It's not great advice, but definitely you've got to keep positive in these shutdown situations sometimes.
Thank you. That's true. Anyone else?
I was just going to say, for me, sometimes it's even before board. I think some of it is just what's your interactions with everyone in general in the church. What have you invested in the relationships you have with people? Because I feel like if that, I say groundwork, it should just be you should naturally just be engaging with your church members anyway. And if you have those relationships, typically, and I've seen more often than not, then when an idea has been presented, there has just generally over time, there's been challenges sometimes, but you see, because those relationships are there and there's there is a respect that they have for you, that actually before we're dealing with challenges, they're actually open to hear. And most likely, even if they might have a few, okay, have you thought about this? Have you thought about, actually, we'll still support your idea. But some of that has come from an interest in the church at large, connecting with the members in general, the board members, and not being maybe someone that's like doing your role, but aloof from the people in church in general. You turn up to board, you want to get your points through, and then you're not again engaged in anything else. So some of it sometimes is before you encounter the challenge, build relationships, and typically you actually find that things are maybe more likely to get through anyway if it's the right idea.
And I think as well, if you come, I'm trying to think of a way to say it without saying come correct.
Well, you said it, bro.
It's too late. It's too late.
If you come correct, so professional is probably a bit too strong of a word, but just so.
Can't hear you, Sam.
I'm not here at all.
No.
Very good now.
You're good now? Okay. So at my local church, we had some young people that, quite a few of the young people, they don't carry cash. So offering time comes, no one's got, the older people have got cash, young people haven't got cash. They've got a card. So they've decided we're going to present to the board, we want to get a card machine, etc., etc., etc. It's going to cost this amount. But when they came, I was sitting there, I was like, yeah, this is official. They've got the handouts, they've got the quotes, they've got this amount, it's going to cost this amount, this is how much, they'll come official. And I feel like when you come official, come correct, and you can see that you've done your homework, I think that sometimes helps because people want to see you do well. As a general rule, I've found that people want to see, the youth do well, people want to support. I want to see that you've put effort in. I feel like that goes a long way.
Yeah, man. Like I would say that, not surprisingly, I feel like generally, my experience at the board has always been on side for the youth, the AYS team, pro youth, like you guys are coming up, like be strong, let's support them, and I feel that does help. But also, Sam, it's really key to make sure that you've done your research, and your argument is just flawless, because nobody can listen. The idea is too good. You see what I'm trying to say? Why wouldn't you take this? Why wouldn't you take this idea on to better the church? It doesn't make any sense. And also, as well, I think it's important to recognize that even if you're 17 on the board, you all have the same level of power. And I feel like it's important that the youth need to understand that there shouldn't be any rankings, any hierarchy on the board. There shouldn't be. Everyone has the same level of power to present their views and opinions. So I feel like with all what we said, I feel like, listen, youth, you can go on and you can achieve greatness on the board, 100%.
I think also though, I keep being the negative person, but some boards don't support the youth. Some just don't. And I've experienced that a lot in this area, in that I'm on the area committee as well, as well as others, but they just don't support the youth. And I've even experienced it in my church where I spoke to the pastor afterwards, and he was like, well, he's just not comfortable in his own spirituality and is acting out against the youth, saying, why are the youth doing this? Why are the youth doing that? Why aren't they? Why isn't anything for the adults? Like, well, if you want something doing, you've got to do it. Get some people, speak to the pastor, get and do it. But because he wasn't willing to get and do something for his age group and wasn't happy where he was targeting the youth. So I think that's probably my two biggest negatives that I just got out of the way. But still, like you still got to be almost on guard. And like you said, as long as you come forward with a strong argument, with all your resources presented and everything, then you shouldn't have problems. But there is still possibly going to be some negatives against you, unfortunately.
It's true. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because even though if you do what Chisha says and you come on time and you do what Sam does and you be professional and you do what Leon says or whatever, you talk to different people in the church, or you work the crowd, so to speak, for want of a better term. It is possible you present an idea and it just, it meets a brick wall. And I'm guessing some of you have experienced that. And so I guess my question to you is, how do you deal with how did you deal, or what would you advise on dealing with either whatever emotions you experienced at that time when the idea that you thought you'd put the legwork in for just doesn't seem to move at that moment? Because
I think,
okay.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think someone mentioned it beforehand. It's about being wise. I know when I first got there, I was a bit on guard, because the reality is, being younger, you do have something to prove. And all of our responses have reflected that. You've got to prove yourself. You've got to prove yourself worthy of the board, unfortunately. But I was definitely on a war thing. I was like, yes, this is my place. My voice will be heard. That was my approach at first. And I realized, that definitely isn't going to work. So you have to be wise. You've got to choose your battles wisely, I think, and know that there is going to be friction. As someone said before, people of the older generation are rooted in tradition and typical church culture. That's decades of tradition and church culture. You can't come with your one self and remove decades of that. So I think it's about being wise and being patient. It is difficult. I'm not going to lie. It is very difficult at times when you can see with your progressive eyes that some suggestions, or if we just do things differently, it would really benefit. And sometimes that pushback that you get can be so disheartening. But I think it's just about being wise and just realizing the bigger picture. The aim is that we're here to serve God, and unity is required. And so sometimes that means that you will be disheartened, but just stick it out, endure a bit, because at the end of it, the bigger picture is we're serving God. So I think, it's being wise, it's choosing your battles, and just realizing that Rome wasn't built in a day.
I think as well, one thing is, I mean, I don't, different boards do things, but try not to take it personal. When your idea gets shut down, try not to take it too personal, like someone's attacking you personally. Even though I know I've heard stories where people have done that, but I feel like just for your own mental health and your own spiritual well-being, it's not necessarily healthy always to take all of your setbacks too personally, and just, you know, well, this one hasn't worked out. The will of the church board wasn't for this program or this idea to be launched, so maybe we put that on the back burner for a bit, and we try something new, try something different, and I think it goes back into what I think Jenny was saying, just trying to be positive, even in the midst of just still trying to keep that positive energy. And I think that sometimes that can really help.
Even for me, sometimes it is tough, but when I've been shut down, I've used it as a development, as an area to develop my character as well. So I'm having to pray more. I'm having to learn patience. I'm having to learn how to not let my emotions get carried away with. And it's those type of things which I think are necessary for young people, or for all of us to happen, because that's the way how we think more, how we grow more, stuff like that. Like, I'll be honest, there's an idea that I've been bringing to the board for quite a few years, and it's tough because, and I know that if it gets going, then things could happen. And sometimes I'm there, I'm scratching my head, I'm praying like, God, what's going on, really? But I'm not giving up, you know. So also persevere, as I said. Like, if you got an idea and you think it can work, just persevere. Don't give up. Might take years, but don't give up.
Are you still trying to get the idea through, or did you succeed?
No comment.
We'll pray for you, man.
Thank you.
Well answered.
Yeah.
The wisdom of a seasoned elder.
Exactly. I was just going to say.
No comment.
No comment.
You have to learn that line, you know.
But Joe, I just wanted to add, I think the perseverance point is huge. I think the millennial generation has been tagged with giving up quite easily and quite quickly. And I think sometimes some of us do, you know, and I know sometimes it's not always completely right to say, okay, what compare church and work, but, you know, some things happen. We might present an idea at work, etc. is shut down. We don't like give up. All right, okay, well, I'm leaving my job. Like, again, we try and work around it. Try and we typically persevere. So again, sometimes that idea may never ever come to fruition. But I think it's just the same that I talk about this sometimes with some of my friends in ministry. It's just we just shouldn't give up. And I think sometimes we're too quick to go, well, all right, well, that's it. Forget the church, forget being in leadership. When actually, no, just slow down, like I think has already been said, be in touch with your emotions and just look at the bigger picture and come again, and just keep going. So yeah, I don't think that point can be labored enough. So yeah.
I'm just bouncing off what you said as well. Deep the dynamics of what's going on. Why did it get shut down? Did it get shut down because, you know, low key, this is a touchy-feely topic, and you just dropped it raw in the board meeting? You haven't given the elders any prep. You haven't spoken to the pastor, but you just try to put it in as any other business. Is that why it got shut down? Think through why it got shut down. You know, sometimes when you think through that as well, that might give you some insight as to, okay, well, let's go again, but maybe I need to speak to the elders first. Maybe I need to speak to the pastor first. Maybe I need to get some advice from auntie such and such, because I know that that's really her. If I'm going to do that, really, I need to speak to her first. You've got those little dynamics that sometimes you got to work through.
Can I just ask you guys a question? Maybe, well, not all of you, but in your churches are there leaders who aren't the leaders?
What? Say that again. Say that again.
Of course.
Are there leaders who aren't the elected leaders? Meaning, like sometimes you say talk to the elders, but it could be that there's someone else that holds sway who just doesn't have a position, but they're good to talk to.
I mean, it's all part and part of the board culture.
Mm.
Every board has their culture. Every board has their, I don't even know how to say this.
Influences.
Yeah, that's the word. Influences.
Influencers.
Certain people can talk a particular way. And these are things that you have to be aware of as well when you're going onto the board. So get to know your board culture, but I wouldn't say depend on it as well. Because if your idea is sincere, just go for it, innit? Just go for it.
Yeah, because sometimes we can actually start thinking too much about all these games.
Yeah, it's not a business.
Like again, I think that line you just said, just be sincere. Sometimes you need to say what you need to say and say it with sincerity and and keep it moving. Yeah. But
Leon,
definitely influences.
Leon, you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that really it's a bit, it shouldn't be this difficult. Like, I don't know why we should be having a discussion about the board. Like, it shouldn't be this serious. Unfortunately, it is. I don't know what that says about us as a people, us as a church, us as Christians. I'm not too sure what it says about us. It goes even further when you think about, session, and you think about other things, and you think to yourself, hold on, why is this thing so difficult? Why do we have to put in strategies? Why is it that it gets wild? Anyway, different convo. But I'd say that, like, I got, listen, man, I've been shot down a couple of times, and you think to yourself, wow, like, whoa, like, did you have to like drop it like that? And I feel like it's important. It's important, like you said, Tisha, not to give up. And I feel like one time, I was asking for a bit of funding for the youth to go on a retreat, and like, nah, sorry. And I thought, well, but why wouldn't you? And it just got shut down, no funding, any of that. And I thought, this has got to develop the youth spirituality, etc., etc. Put it down nice, how you guys do, It's like, nah, sorry. And I thought, and then I thought, okay, that's fine. And I had to dig into my own pocket, and fortunately, there was money there. And I feel like if God wants it to happen, it's going to happen. The board can't stop what God has planned. It's just not going to work. And I feel like if we approach God first, like, the board is secondary.
What I want to say as well is, sorry, Adam, is that if you do get shot down on a board, find someone you can talk to about being shot down. Keep it personal, because me and Leon, we work, well, obviously we go to the same board, church, and there's been many conversations that we've had about the board, about leadership, and it's good because we get to offload on each other, kind of thing. And I think sometimes as young people, you just keep things in, and when you keep it in, you get heated, you get upset, you go to a board with an agenda, like, oh, I'm gonna talk to pastor like this or the else, There's no need to do that. Just talk with board members who you can relate to, who you can get advice and wisdom and guidance from, and even for a little prayer session as well, because sometimes it's never nice to be shut down. Pray about it and then just move forward.
Good point. Thank you. Have any of you guys felt loneliness in your leadership role? And if you have, how have you dealt with it? You're trying your best, but people don't understand you, or no one's checking up on you, anything like that?
I feel like, oh, sorry, please, Jenny, please go ahead.
No, Sam, go for it.
No, please.
As I said, I'm from quite a small church and quite a lot of dwindling youth, so it does feel like you're alone a lot of the time. But I feel during my recent work with the Senior Youth Leadership Programme, I now know a lot more youth leaders around the SEC. And it's great to be able to reach out and actually talk to one of them and to them say, well, this is working here, why don't you try it at yours? And then you can bounce ideas off people. So I think networking, even if it's not within your own church, with other churches and stuff, then I think networking is really key. If you are feeling alone, finding someone that might even be in that similar situation and go, right, we've both got this problem, let's sort it out. So it's yeah, that's really helped me the last year or so.
Okay, networking. Anyone else?
I think I was going to say exactly what Jenny just said. So when I think about some of my friends, I'm talking to Nathan and Tisha all the time. Like, he's not on the panel today, but like Horace is a specialist in church policy and procedure. So you know, so you got friends that you can reach out to, and you're like, bro, what's going on here? And sometimes not even necessarily for advice, just to listen. Not that you're sharing anything confidential. That's not what I'm saying. But you're just there for support. And then sometimes you just need a bit of prayer. Sometimes you just need a bit of backing to say, bro, fix up. You can do it. And sometimes I think those things are very important. Those things are very important. To have some people that you can speak to, and they don't necessarily have to be in your local. They can be in your local, but like as Jenny was saying, if you're from a smaller church, then it's important to network so that you can get that support network.
Would you guys say there's any dangers of a young person being in? I know we always talk about we need more young people. And I always say, you know, we need more youth leaders, need more youth elders, blah blah blah. You know, it's something that we see as important. But are there situations where you could say it may be even a danger for a youth to be in, or what dangers could there be to the young person to be in leadership? Kind of goes against the grain of everything we've been saying, but
just quickly. Just off what Leon just said, it was my first session a few years ago, and I was on the nominating committee. I don't know how that happened, and I'm telling you now, it's not for everybody. It's not for every young person. It wasn't for me. When I look back, it wasn't for me. So these are some of the things. You've got to be careful. You got to take. I won't realize you take people up slowly. Don't just feed people to the lions. You take people up slowly, because there are some things, as Leon said, session. He's like, why is it like this? And that can really. I mean, it did impact me for a while. I was just shell shocked, and it takes you sometimes a bit of time to process what's actually going on here. So, so yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Go on, NECyouth. I saw your mouth start moving.
I was just gonna say, going off of that point, burnout.
That was about.
I think is the biggest danger, because I think the root problem of burnout, of course, you get exhausted and such, but I think it's when it starts to almost interfere with your relationship with God. And like you start to resent, I don't know if this is anyone else's experience, but for me, you start to resent because you associate your duties with your relationship with God. You start to resent God in general, and then that's not right. So I think burnout is the worst. When you get to that point where you're mentally and physically fatigued, and let me just share my own experience, where you walk into church and you just don't want to be there, not because you don't like church, not because you're not connected to God, but simply because the weight of everything going on, the issues, it can burn out. It can cause you to burn out, and that's a dangerous place to be. So I would say there's always steps. Things always escalate. So before you get to that stage where you're actually burnt out, take a sabbatical. It's okay. Listen, I love a sabbatical. Take a sabbatical. Just say, guys, I need some time. Talk to your team. I need some time. Honestly, because burnout's a real thing.
Yeah.
Good advice. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, the burnout point is huge. But also, oh, it's just left me. Come back to me in a moment. It's just left me.
What was your question, Adam?
What are some of the dangers to a young person beginning in leadership?
So yeah, thanks, Leon. Yeah, I think it's just, again, just touching on what Sam said in regards to Sam, sorry, just right. What did you say?
You talked about session and nominating committee.
Yes, yeah, being exposed. Sorry, gosh, being exposed. Yeah, bring me back.
It's late. Don't worry, Tish. It's late.
Yeah,
Don't worry. Don't worry.
It's okay, bro. It's okay.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, I think that's, if you're not ready to be, because this is my first year as an elder. I was asked when I was in Leicester when I was 23, but I was like, no, I want to just focus on the youth right now. So I was asked again last year, said yes. And obviously, yes, you're exposed to some things in the board, but when you're then now part of the eldership team, you're exposed to a lot more of what's going on. And again, sometimes, especially as a young person, again, some things you wouldn't even be thinking about. You wouldn't even think, this has happened with these adults or whatever, and you're like, whoa, okay. So I think, like, again, Sam was just, I think sometimes just appreciating that, again, we're all on a journey, young, old, no one's don't be putting people on pedestals, etc. Because yeah, like I said, I started learning of things, and I was like, but again, if you mentally haven't prepared yourself actually to maybe start being exposed to stuff, then it could actually have quite a detrimental effect. You could start resenting, you could start thinking, who are all these people, they're fake, this, that, and then next minute you're like, yeah, I don't want to be here. So again, it's just maybe just preparing yourself mentally that you're going to be exposed to things you might not necessarily thought you might have been. Got there in the end.
Got there, Trish, man. Got there, man. I would say that some of the dangers, yeah, I think it can be challenging for young people in leadership. However, I do also think that it always doesn't have to be challenging. I believe that we don't give enough responsibility to our young people. I believe that young people have the potential and the ability to do great things even at young ages. Some of these young people are managing teams and they've got more experience than some of the 50 and 60-year-olds in our church. It's because they're young. Sorry, no go. Like, I think we should be putting young people into these roles earlier. I think that even the board should be reflecting the youth of the church. It doesn't reflect the youth of the church. You know what I mean? Man, there's so much to say, man. But I really don't think it has to be as challenging as it is for our young people. And I think that's for us here to make that change for the younger people to come in. I don't know when that's going to happen, but sometime soon. Maybe 5 years. I don't know.
So maybe picking up on something Nathan mentioned earlier, and that would be, and Sam as well. What type of support group do you have as a leader? Do each one of you have you got someone that would maybe mentor you? Is it necessary to have that? Would you say?
You need support around you. I think
I guess the question is twofold: support. So you're saying and then like mentor as well.
Yeah. I mean, just to really quickly say, I think it was mentioned earlier, but having people to be able to offload. Like I said, I'm talking with Sam, talking with one of my other guys, whoever it may be. I think you do need someone to maybe be able to offload, to share. Again, take into account confidentiality, etc. But to be able to just at times maybe let off. But at the same time, I think mentors also. I've got a few mentors within ministry who are in most cases older than me, and sometimes I do fall back on them for advice. So I think if you can, and and you're that type of person that you'd listen, and you would engage with your mentor, then or a mentor, then I think go for it. Ultimately, I mean, I'm always talking to God all the time, like literally stuff like I'm just doing work. Oh Lord, da 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 da. Lord, this is like I need some guidance, need your help. So ultimately, just keep talking with God as well about these things as do better. But yeah, that's my 2 pence.
Okay. Anyone else want to make a point on that or not? You can move on.
I think for me, like, if you're gonna get support or a mentor, and it might be the obvious, get someone who's been in your position, because they will understand some of the things that you've been through. Highlighting Trisha's point, be confidential as well, but I'll say that's key. Like, there are other elders that I speak to outside of the church, but just to kind of say, oh, how did you handle this, or how did you feel about that, or when did this come up, when did you come up against this, how did you deal with it, kind of thing. And it's really, really, really helpful. It's nice to offload as well. It's nice to gain wisdom and counsel from others as well, to see how they done something, because sometimes I've been speaking to certain people and I'll be like, you know what, I'm going to take that idea and try it hands worth, see what happens. It may work, it may not work as well. So I think it's good to talk. It's always good to talk, man.
Can I just say, regarding the mentorship thing, going back on what Leon said before, yes, I fully agree that young people should be in positions from early. But what I find in a lot of churches' cultures is that there isn't that training, that there isn't that discipleship, that mentorship, there isn't that support, progressive support. I find that there might be a few, tips here and there. Okay, this is how you do this is how you do that, and then that's it. You're left to just figure it out. I think that was my experience as well. So I think mentorship isn't only something that's beneficial. I think it should be imperative. Someone, as Nathan said, that's in the actual role that you're in, and that will walk with you, check on you in the week, not just when you see each other at the meetings or on the Sabbath, but just walk with you in the week as well. Because I think church leadership can be really difficult, really challenging. And so I think it is important to have that person to support you weekly in the week as well. So.
All right, I've got a few more questions. I'll try and get through them before we finish. And the next one is, as a leader, do you feel like you put on a mask, or you are tempted to, or you have when you're leading? You can't be so vulnerable because people expect you to be, expect you to be this strong, powerful leader or something like that. So is that a challenge any of you have faced in your leadership, like internally, personally?
I think it differs who you're talking to, definitely, because we're such a small group. I don't tend to wear a mask with them at all. But if I'm, for instance, at a conference or something, then I'll try and put a bit of a mask up just to like keep the emotions in, whatever. But quite often it comes down. So I like being open and honest, and I don't really know any other way of dealing with it, which is probably annoying for some people. But but I think just trying to be open and honest is how I have to do things, like, and let them see it.
You know what it is? It's like you go in, you have a board meeting or you have an elders meeting, and it's heavy, like a lot's gone on, and then you have to, knowing what's going on, and then you have to go into church and then you have to just put on a smile and like everything's okay. Like it's tough. It's tough at times. Sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes you ask to preach, and you haven't prepared a sermon properly, but you still have to put on that face. You still have to go in the pulpit, and you still have to speak. And it's like, it's tough. And I do sometimes I'll be real. It's not good at all. But sometimes you feel like you have to. As I get older, I'm learning. But sometimes you do as well. Yeah, man, sometimes church is tough. To keep it real.
Wow. Sometimes church is tough. What's your definition of mask?
That's a good question.
A front?
Because I wouldn't say what Nathan's just described. Like you say, everyone's had it where you're in church. We did a quick elders meeting. Something's just happened, and it's heavy. And then you got to go back out. Oh, Sam, happy Sabbath. Oh, happy Sabbath, sister such and such. But in your mind, what's going on in the meeting is you're still processing that. Wow, that's heavy. Is that a mask?
Question.
I guess for me, sorry, go on, Trish.
I feel like a mask is like when you're being fake. I wouldn't say you're necessarily being fake, but you're still processing. You're processing what's going on, but you're not necessarily showing everybody the process.
Yeah, and I suppose it also goes outside of just kind of that church situation, but just life. Like sometimes you're not like I mean, maybe I'm speaking. In fact, I know I'm not alone in this, but like sometimes, yes, I'm the training elder or the youth leader who should know best, but yeah, spiritually I'm struggling or I'm down, and you're not sure. Like it's difficult because sometimes, yeah, if you say should you share too much? But you're supposed to show like what's possible with God and everything else, and so I think sometimes, yeah, it's hard. It is hard. I still don't know if I found that, the right balance. If there is, if there should be a balance, if I should just be an open book, or like. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, because yeah, sometimes you're a leader, but you're struggling, and yeah, but I suppose this is where again, if you're talking, like example, we've got this forum now, and we're sharing that example. Sometimes we struggle. Sometimes I struggle. I suppose if you're a leader now, maybe hearing this, oh, okay, it's okay, mate. Like there's others that are struggling sometimes spiritually, and but they're leading. So, okay, press on. She's pressing on. Leon's pressing on. Okay, I've got to press on, but maybe let me talk at the same time. Obviously, pray about it. Speak to people around me. But yeah, definitely, sometimes it's hard.
I think like when you look at the Bible, there's so many people that have messed up, but then you see the positive outcome from their mess up. I think there's so many people that can learn from what you've messed up, but you've seen the other side of it, and they might be in the mess up stage. So your little testimonies, your taking down your mask might be exactly what they needed to hear to get them through that. So it's balance.
Yeah, no, for real.
I think for me, it's different to share with people where you've come from to where you are now. Because that's a success story. Like God did that. Like God changed me into a different person. But I feel like it's different when you're going through a situation right now, and now you're the leader. You're the leader, Adam, and you're the leader, Nathan, and someone says to you, "Oh," and when you're elder, you get this quite often. Leon, just whisper a prayer for us, please. Listen, I've experienced that. Wherever I go now, Leon, whisper a prayer for us, please. And yourself, okay, cool. You think to yourself, boy, not all the time. I'm not sometimes I'm going through stuff myself. And you think to yourself, hold on, though, I've been appointed to be a leader. So therefore, there's no room to take breaks. You know what I mean? There's no room to take breaks. So in regards to that mask, Adam, what you're talking about, I would say that you have to kind of reposition yourself really quickly to kind of uphold your role, even though maybe you're probably struggling at a certain time. I think that's been one of the most difficult experiences for me in leadership. Showing face when really, boy, sometimes you're struggling, and they need that Bible study from you. You know them ones. You know them ones there.
Yeah.
And I think that is where I found it beneficial to have that support, that you got your people that you can call. So for example, Nathan and I have prayed, And sometimes the Spirit just impressed Nathan, and Nathan's phoned me, and he's asked me some key questions, and he doesn't know what's going on. And then we've prayed. So that's why I think sometimes it's good to have friends around you who I've got your back. You can have key conversations with. When you have conversations with these people, you know that it stays there and it's not going out via Zoom. So those are some of the things I think it's important for every leader. Every leader needs some people around them that they can reason with and pray with. And it's important to have your own walk. Yeah.
All right. Let me pivot to another question. Appreciate that, Sam, and those advice. How do you balance leadership, church leadership, with the rest of your life? Because I don't know, some of you, sometimes the church likes to take over your life, and will, and is easily able to. So, and I'm not asking the question assuming all of you have cracked it, because if I was on the panel, I don't know what I'd answer because I haven't quite figured it out myself yet. So I'm asking you for some advice as well. How do you balance the church with the rest of your life, or if you haven't figured it out, then that's fine to say. But have you got any pointers that you can share with the rest of us here and others watching?
I agree with you, Adam. I think I'm not the best example, but one thing I have learned is that it's okay to say no. You don't have to do everything. You yourself, you are not the church. And I've done some stupidness. I'm going to assume that some people in here have done some stupidness. So, obviously I'm a nurse. So I'm doing a 12-hour shift from 7 to 8, end a little bit later. Then I'm rushing from there, going into elders meeting. Stuff like that. It's not healthy, and it's not good. It takes its toll on your body and your mind. It affects your spirituality as well. But one thing I say, just say no. That's a start. You can't do everything. You physically cannot do everything. So yeah, that's my little 2 pence, as Trisha would say.
I mean, for me, I would say that. Dear. For me, I'll be grateful. I'm grateful that I have a wife who is very honest, and she'll just say, hold on, you're going to do this study, but the children need to do their Sabbath school. And you think to yourself, my chest, whoa, it's true. What am I doing? I need to make sure my house is in order. What's going on? And I feel like church leadership can easily take over because you're trying to uphold that role, and then you're missing essential roles at home. And I'm still learning. But it's important to, especially if you have a family, to make sure that you feed them first, and then feed others, because they're in your immediate flock. You know what I mean? So I'm still learning. Yeah.
I would say, similar to what Nathan said, learn the power of saying no. And that's not to mean you say no all the time. No. There will be times where you have to work, because at the end of the day, that's the role of a leader. There are times when you have to give extra. There are going to be a lot of times where you have to give extra. But I think it's about being in tune with yourself, and being intentional as well. Just knowing that, let's be honest, church folk are still human at the end of the day. And sometimes they can try and take advantage of people and try exploit, let's be honest. They can see that you're kind and that you're willing, and they will take that and they can take advantage of it, in all honesty. So it's just about being aware of that and just making sure that you're aware and saying no when needed, and being intentional. Just, as I said before, before you reach breakdown stage, you can say, oh, I'm actually feeling exhausted, I'm tired. Oh, I'm not feeling right. One thing about being in leadership is you can get so caught up in serving and doing the duties, that your relationship with God is just neglected. You know, you're doing the Bible studies, you're preparing the prayer meeting, you're doing whatever, but then your own personal time with God is non-existent. That happens very often. So it's really important about making sure that you replenish that and just taking that time out and being intentional, I would say.
Just very quickly to add, Pastor, and I think this is something, Pastor Ram, that you actually always talk about as well, but planning well and delegating. And the reason why I would say those for this answer is because, again, you've got your, let's say, your full-time job, and you've got maybe one or two responsibilities at church. You can only do so much. So if you're empowering others around you who are doing a little bit here, a little bit there, and obviously those little bits coming together are actually then keeping things ticking over. But also, again, you planned properly, so in good time. So again, I think that's good planning and delegation can help that bit. Let's not get twisted. I think, I mean, most people even hear and know that I struggle with this as well. Saying no is something that, to be honest, only really this year, I'm probably now acting on. I've struggled. So yeah, it's not easy, but yeah, delegation is huge, because sometimes we're trying to do everything, control everything, and we can't.
Thank you. Anyone, last two questions. Next one, anyone got any books on leadership you'd recommend?
Yeah, I definitely recommend Help, I'm Being Followed by Clinton A. Valley. I've lost mine somewhere. It's got tons and tons of notes in it, but it's such a good book. Help, I'm Being Followed. I definitely recommend that one.
Okay, thank you. I haven't read that. Thanks for the tip.
One book from me, actually, because you sent the question before I had the book ready. It's The Unhurried Life, Following Jesus' Rhythms of Work and Rest. This book was recommended to me by Pastor Fuller last year when we were talking about burnout, talking about working hours, etc. And this book, brilliant principles in it. Some I've acted on, some I'm still not acted on, some I've forgotten, so I need to read the book again. But yeah, by An Unhurried Life by Alan Badlin, Following Jesus' Rhythms of Work and Rest.
Okay, appreciate that. Anyone else?
I would recommend A Work of Heart, Understanding How God Shapes Spiritual Leaders by Reggie McNeil. A brilliant book. It was given to me by a church auntie when I first started eldership, and it was a life-changing book. It just breaks down the different examples of spiritual leaders in the Bible, and it just breaks down their stories and their journeys, and just gives you gems on how you can operate in your leadership. So really good book.
For me, I didn't even know it's one of the questions, Adam, but basically I think that, I don't know if you guys have read Christian Service by Ellen G. Man, it just reshapes you, and it really makes you think about what leadership is and what it looks like, and how to lead, and what the importance of the Holy Spirit. Like, it just puts everything in. It's just it's an amazing book. It's an amazing book. If you haven't read it, you need to read it, and I'm sure it will develop you, definitely. Christian Service.
Okay.
Piggybacking off what Leon has just said. I mean, I'm pointing this way because Leon's that way on my screen, but I'm not sure where he is on your screens. But piggybacking off what Leon just said, last year, because I was doing the peace outreach coordinator thing, I thought it would be good to read gospel workers. And why? Put that on your list. So I read through that. Put that on your list.
What's that, son?
Gospel workers.
Yeah.
LNG. Put that on your list. It's a thick one, but just take it bit by bit, and you make your way through it. Yeah. Bits and pieces in there with regards, just a lot of things with regards to ministry in general. She touches on.
Book called Spiritual Leadership by J. Oswald Sanders. It's a book that I've started reading through well, I read through it started reading through it a long time ago, but I need to finish it, to be honest. But
Nice.
what I got by it, I was really impacted. So yeah, it's a
Mm.
good, man. It's a good book, man.
I thought you were going to mention a different book, but it's called Spiritual Leadership, again by Blackaby and Blackaby.
Okay.
Excellent book, really good. Two brothers, Blackaby and Blackaby. Spiritual Leadership, really good. And last question would be, guys, who's your favorite biblical leader or person you may look up to in the Bible for leadership principles?
Moses all day long. Moses.
Yeah.
Like,
Me too. I love Moses.
Moses, man.
Same.
I don't
That's two of us done, so I love Moses as well.
I'm going to say Abraham. Faith and obedience, admirable. I'm striving towards that. So, Abraham.
My favorite Bible character has always been Esther, but also in terms of leadership, because of the amount of courage that she showed, and she stepped up to do what was right. And sometimes we need to stand up for what is right in our situations, even if we're going against someone quite mighty that we see as quite mighty in our church. Then we still need to stand up for what's right. So I think she's a very strong character to live up to.
I think for me it would be the chief, Joseph, in it. Joseph is one of my legends, and you'll find that you can't really outstudy Joseph. Like there's too many experiences. He's such a great leader, and I feel like for me, he encountered so much negativity, like maybe that we may have experienced on the board or during leadership, and just humbled himself. And I feel like that's powerful, and it shows that Christ is just pouring out of him. And this guy's I think this guy saved the world, man. This guy saved Egypt. Like there's too much to say about Joseph. Top leader. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Me, it's probably Caleb. Reason why I love Caleb is just he was on his own thing. Moses and Aaron didn't make it into the promised land, but he's on his own thing.
Wait, where's Moses now?
Oh, shut down.
Hey, where's Moses?
Let us speak on Moses.
Where's Moses now? Where's Moses now?
Okay. Okay.
The reason why I like him as well is just when the 12 spies went out and they had their quote unquote board meeting, and 10 voted with staying. But Caleb and Joshua stood in their position. No matter what anybody else is saying, no matter what the influencers are saying, no matter what whoever else is doing, and Caleb. And what I liked about Caleb is that he never actually became the main man. Joshua was, but Caleb he was still a leader in his own sphere. And I feel like you may never be whoever, but in your own sphere, God's called you to lead where you are. And that's why Caleb just stands out to me.
Good point. Well, thank you guys. We've come to the end of our time this evening. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your thoughts, your wisdom, and just being open and honest with each other and with those who are watching. So to those who are watching, if you haven't watched the whole thing, there's some great advice all throughout. So if you're just tuning on at the end, do go back to the beginning and catch up and just see the different questions on leadership and church runnings that we've talked about. And then do that. Thank you guys for joining. Leon, do you mind closing with a word of prayer for us?
Yeah, of course. Lord God, thank you for the discussion that we've had here today. Thank you for appointing all of us as leaders at some point during this time. during our lives. We thank you for trusting us. Thank you for being with us, Lord. For those who are in leadership roles out there, Lord, ask you for your equip them and never leave their side. Empower them with your Holy Spirit to lead in spirit and in truth, Lord, and help us to remember, Lord, in our leadership roles that we're not doing this for us, but we're doing it for you. And if we just focus on you, Lord, if we just focus and fix our eyes on Christ, Lord, we know that we can accomplish great things through your power alone. So Lord, be with us now as we separate. Be with us in our own homes, as we lead out in our own homes, lead out in the community. Continue to empower us, continue to be with us, and Lord, one day enable us to make it to your kingdom, all because we led successfully, all for you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. All right, guys, thank you for joining. For those who are watching, our next program on NEC Youth, we don't have a one tomorrow, actually. Is there book club this week, Sam?
No, there's a break this week.
There's a break this week. Okay. Friday night, we have Bible study, and we're going to be looking at, it's called The Crucifixion Story. We're just going through the crucifixion narrative this week. So sharing the story of the crucifixion. And then this Sabbath, we have D. Casper, who's going to be our preacher after our Sabbath school. So do tune back in. And once again, thank you guys for joining, and God bless.